I want to start today by asking you to visualize a very specific and I think very common nightmare.
Okay.
Imagine you are a highly trained medical professional. You spent, I don't know, maybe decades studying anatomy, cellular biology, injection techniques. You are an absolute expert.
Mm-hmm.
And then someone tells you that to be truly successful in your own clinic, you have to become, well, a used car salesman.
The dreaded pivot to sales. Yeah, it is the ultimate identity crisis for a clinician.
Precisely. It is the R word, retail. And honestly, looking at the industry, there's this massive tension.
Yeah.
You have these incredible clinics doing high-end aesthetic work, but the moment you mention selling a skin cream or a serum to a patient, the walls just go up.
It feels cheap. It feels commercial.
It feels like a betrayal of the medical oath to some degree.
But that is exactly why we're doing this deep dive today. We're unpacking a really comprehensive masterclass by Dr. Ari Masudi.
And the source is important here.
So important, because Masudi isn't coming at this from, like, a marketing background. He didn't just get an MBA and decide to sell lotion.
Right. His background is actually fascinating. He started in regenerative medicine research. He is a scientist first.
Yes.
So when he talks about retail, he isn't talking about upselling or pushing product.
Yeah.
He is looking at clinic operations through that same, rigorous microscopic lens he used to look at cell cultures.
And that is the hook. If you are a clinic owner or an ambitious aesthetic doctor and you think your job is done when the patient pays the bill and walks out the door, Dr. Masudi argues that you are scientifically wrong. Not just financially wrong, but medically wrong.
So the mission for this deep dive is pretty clear then. We're going to dismantle that whole used car salesman fear.
Yeah.
We are going to look at Masudi's framework for turning a clinic into a retail powerhouse. But, and this is the key, doing it in a way that actually improves the patient's clinical outcome.
And we have to start with what Masudi calls the mindset shift. Because before we even get to the spreadsheets and the shelf displays, we have to fix the psychology of the provider.
Let's go there.
Yeah.
Because I have spoken to so many doctors who say, ew, I am not selling product. It makes me look pushy. They feel like it devalues their medical degree.
Oh, completely. It's a massive ego barrier.
So how does he get past that?
He reframes the entire concept. He argues in his Art and Science of Retail module that retail isn't some separate commercial activity. It is a biological necessity to protect the work you just did.
He uses that analogy about dandruff, right? I highlighted that because it's so simple but so effective.
It's perfect. Think about it. A patient comes to you with a severe scalp condition. You do the treatment in the chair, maybe a medicated cleanse, some light therapy. You fix the immediate issue.
You've done your job as a doctor.
Right. But then you let that patient go home and use a $3 supermarket shampoo that is just full of sulfates and strips the scalp.
You've essentially let them undo your work before they even get to the parking lot.
Exactly. Masudi's point is, selling is not commerce. It is prolonging the efficacy of the service.
Wow.
If you don't control what they put on their skin for the 29 days a month they aren't in your clinic, you are failing the treatment plan.
That changes the dynamic completely. It
Yes.
moves it from pitching to prescribing.
Exactly.
You aren't asking them to buy a luxury item. You are telling them how to maintain the medical result you just gave them.
Precisely.
But let's play devil's advocate for a second here. Even if the doctor buys into the whole medical necessity argument, is it really worth the operational headache? Is the money actually there?
I mean, or is it just pocket change compared to the injections?
Right.
The math is actually startling. Masudi breaks it down, and it's a serious wake-up call for anyone looking at their P&L statement. In a typical clinic, your service revenue, the Botox, the facials, it's incredibly heavy on labor.
Of course, because you are paying the nurse, the esthetician, the receptionist yourself.
Exactly. Labor costs can eat up, 45 to 60% of that revenue? So for every dollar you bring in on a treatment, you might be keeping 40 cents before you even pay rent.
It's tight.
But retail is a different beast. Once that product is sitting on the shelf, the labor cost is effectively zero. It doesn't need to be fed or paid vacation time. Masudi uses a standard example. A jar of corrective serum sold for 79 euros. If your wholesale cost is 35, you're generating a 56% gross margin. That's passive income.
It is cash flow that doesn't require you to be standing over a patient with a needle in your hand.
And that is what he calls service retail integration. It isn't about greed, it is about stability. The retail side subsidizes the heavy lifting of the service side. It's an ecosystem.
Okay, so we've established we're not selling used cars. We are prescribing efficacy. and the margins are great. But this is where I see clinics fail time and time again.
The execution.
Yeah, they get excited, they buy a bunch of random brands, throw them on a dusty shelf, and then nothing moves.
That is the classic error. And this is where Masudi's retail planning module comes. He is very, very strict about this. You cannot have a disconnect between your clinic's philosophy and the products you sell.
You're talking about that Seasons Salon and Spa case study. Can you break that down?
Yeah, it's a perfect example of brand confusion. So imagine your clinic's mission is hard science, proven anti-aging. You wear white coats, everything is sterile, high-tech. That is your brand promise.
Okay.
But then on your retail shelf, you stock a product line that's all about botanical whispers and flower essences with no active ingredients just because the packaging looked nice.
You are undermining your own authority. You are telling the patient you believe in science, but you are selling them potpourri.
Precisely. The patient loses trust and the wallet stays closed. They can smell the inauthenticity.
So, assuming we align the brand, we still have to figure out price. The instinct for a high-end clinic is to only sell the most expensive, exclusive stuff. But Masudi says that is a mistake.
It is a trap. He introduces the good, better, best strategy. And this is fundamental purchasing psychology, but clinics often ignore it. You need 3 tiers.
Why 3? Why not just sell the Lamborghini of face cream?
Context. If you only put a €200 serum on the shelf, it just looks expensive. But if you have a good option at €60, a better premium option at $120, and the best option at $200, well, magic happens.
The $120 option suddenly looks like the sensible middle ground choice.
Exactly. You anchor the price, you capture the budget-conscious client with the good tier so they don't go to the drugstore, you capture the whales with the best tier, and you drive massive volume with the better tier.
Now, speaking of that best category, Masudi touches on something that I know tempts a lot of clinic owners, the allure of private label.
The white label dream. It is incredibly appealing for 2 reasons. 1, the margins are massive, and 2, ultimate loyalty.
Right, because if I fall in love with some brand name cream, I can probably find it on Amazon for 20% off.
And that is the biggest leak in retail. You do the education, you sell the first ball, and then Amazon gets the reorder. Private label stops that cold.
But there's a catch.
Oh, there is a massive reality check here from Masudi. It is not as easy as just printing a sticker and slapping it on a bottle.
Right.
It is a logistical nightmare if you aren't ready. You are looking at minimum order quantities MOQs. Manufacturers want you to buy 500 or 1,000 units per product.
That is a lot of cash just tied up sitting in a back room somewhere.
And lead times of 6 to 9 months. Masudi basically says, do not do this until you have the volume to support it. It's a strategic leap, not a vanity project.
Which brings us to the part of the masterclass that Masudi calls boring but deadly, inventory management.
Yeah, this is where the scientist in him really comes out. He has this quote that every clinic owner needs to just, internalize. Inventory is cash sitting on a shelf.
It hurts to hear it, but it is true. That box of creams is just a stack of €50 bills gathering dust.
And unlike bills, creams expire. So he suggests the min-max system. It is a discipline thing. You analyze how fast you sell a product, and you set a hard floor and a hard ceiling.
Walk us through that urban salon example from the source.
Sure. So they had a signature lotion. They looked at the data and set a minimum of 120 bottles and a maximum of 240. If the stock count hits 119, the computer automatically triggers a reorder.
And if it's at 240?
They stop buying, period.
Yeah.
No matter what deal the vendor is offering, it prevents that emotional buying when a charismatic sales rep comes in.
We've all been there.
Yeah, and that's how clinics die. Masudi introduces the open to buy or OTB budget. It is a strict monthly allowance. If your OTB for skincare is €2,000 and you spend it all in the first week, you are done.
It sounds rigid, but it forces discipline. But what about the stuff that's already sitting there? The mistakes?
The aging stock danger zone. This stat actually terrified me. A product that has been on your shelf for more than 90 days has only a 10% chance of ever selling at full price.
Only 10%, so holding on to it is just delusional.
It's a fallacy. Masudi says you must be ruthless, mark down aggressively, minus 25% at 30 days, minus 50% at 60 days.
Get it out the door.
Turn it back into cash. Even if you break even, having that cash back to buy something that actually sells is always better.
Okay, let's pivot. We have the right strategy. We aren't overbuying. Now we had to physically put this stuff in the clinic. Visual merchandising.
And this isn't just about interior design. It is pure psychology. It's about removing barriers.
He talks about that 3 to 7 second rule for window displays.
Exactly. Exactly. You have seconds to convey a feeling or a solution before the passerby just keep walking.
What about inside? I found the section on lighting surprisingly technical. I never thought about light bulbs affecting sales.
It is crucial. Masudi specifies that you need a high CRI color rendering index greater than 90.
Okay, wait, for listeners who aren't lighting engineers, what is CRI? Why does it matter?
CRI measures how accurately a light source shows the true colors of an object. If you have cheap, low CRI lighting, skin looks gray, washed out, sickly.
The last thing you want in an aesthetic clinic.
Exactly. If a patient looks in the mirror and sees zombie skin, they won't trust you. High CRI makes the products pop, and more importantly, it makes the patient's skin look vibrant. It reinforces the result.
And the layout matters too. He contrasted the Ayurvedic spa vibe with the clinical vibe.
Right. An Ayurvedic spa uses curves and organic shapes for relaxation. A medical clinic, you probably want a grid layout. Clean lines, symmetry, it subconsciously signals order, precision, cleanliness.
One thing I see all the time, and Masudi seems to hate this, is the museum effect. Everything locked behind glass.
Oh, that kills sales instantly. Masudi emphasizes touch and try. You need testers. People need to feel the texture. But, and this is a massive medical but, they must be pristine.
A dirty tester is worse than no tester.
It screams infection risk. If I see a crusty bottle of lotion in a medical clinic, I'm questioning if they sterilize their needles. It destroys trust.
He also mentions shelf talkers. Yes, the staff can't be everywhere at once. A shelf talker is a silent salesperson, but it has to be benefit-driven. Not contains hyaluronic acid, but plumps skin and reduces fine lines.
Right, it answers the so what question. Okay, speaking of staff, we can have the best lights, the best budget, but if the team doesn't open their mouths, nothing moves.
The human factor is always the weakest link. You cannot automate enthusiasm.
Masudi makes a distinction between training and education. What's the difference?
It is vital. Training is functional. Here is how you scan the barcode. You can train a robot to do that. Education is conceptual. Here is why the serum stabilizes collagen.
Education gives them the confidence to recommend.
And to take it a step further, Masudi introduces the ambassador concept. He says the staff must use the products.
You mean giving them free product?
Or extremely deep discounts. Think about it. If your receptionist has beautiful skin, but she secretly uses Cetaphil because she can't afford your €80 cleanser, she will never authentically sell it. She'll feel like a fraud.
There was that example of the happy wraps.
Yes, from the source. This spa was trying to sell these heated neck wraps. They weren't moving. The owner finally gave one to every massage therapist. Suddenly, sales exploded.
Why?
Because the therapists were using them at home while watching Netflix. They weren't pitching a product, they were sharing a personal hack. Authenticity sells.
But enthusiasm only goes so far. Money talks. Let's talk compensation.
We have to. And many clinics get lazy. They just give a flat 10% commission. Masudi says that creates complacency.
Because it's just a predictable bonus.
Exactly. He suggests tiered commissions to gamify the process. So maybe you get 5% on your first €500 of sales, but the moment you cross 500, your commission bumps to 10% on everything.
Ooh, I love that. It pushes people to reach for that next tier. I'm only €50 away from the 10% bracket.
It rewards your high performers without overthinking the people doing the bare minimum.
So we have the team incentivized, we have the lights on. How do we know if any of this is actually working? Masudi warns against just looking at total sales.
Total sales is a vanity metric. It doesn't tell you how you are winning. He lists specific KPIs, key performance indicators that act like diagnostic tools.
Okay, let's run through the big ones.
First, sales per ticket. You look at your average invoice. How much retail is being attached to the service? Is it 0?
Right. You want to see that ticket creep up because of the home care products.
Second is sales per provider. This is the lie detector. You will often find one specific nurse is driving 80% of your retail and the others are doing nothing. That tells you who needs more education.
And stock turnover.
Ideally 3 to 4 times a year. Less than that, you're overstocked. Much higher. And you're probably missing sales because you're out of stock.
There was one last metric he warned about, the cost of goods sold, or COGS trap.
This is the silent killer. If your COGS percentage is creeping up, but your sales aren't, it is a huge red flag. It usually means one of two things: theft or untracked internal use.
Internal use meaning using the retail products for the actual treatments.
Exactly. A nurse runs out of the professional size cleanser. She's in a rush, so she runs to the front, grabs a retail bottle off the shelf, and uses it.
And if she doesn't log it,
the inventory count is off, and you just burned a high-margin retail product for a service cost. You've destroyed your margin.
It's those little operational leaks that sink the ship.
Precisely. Retail is a game of millimeters.
So let's wrap this up. We started with the idea that retail isn't a dirty word. It's a medical necessity to finish the treatment.
Correct. If you aren't prescribing the home care, you aren't finishing the job.
We moved to strategy planning your good, better, best tiers. We talked about managing inventory like it's piles of cash.
We covered the environment, the lighting, the clean testers, and the people, empowering them through education and tiered commissions.
And finally, measuring it all with real KPIs so you aren't flying blind.